Departing the Baron's mansion and returning to the main road leading west to east, we soon continued our march toward Nace, as the inner circle wizard Vel had requested back in Kathleen, taking another 3 days to get there. While significantly smaller than Kathleen, the capital city of Nace was still an impressive sight, a thriving metropolis protected by a sturdy wall of bleached stone that completely encircled the city, with nearby mountains to the north, west and south that further protected the capital. Approaching the city from the south and then east, the main road continued northeast here toward the distant Nararian plains several weeks away. Here we are. Ariana smiled, standing alongside Eswin and leading the party forward. So far so good. Perhaps, but let's have a quick look around first, Eswin returned, always wary. Ensuring the immediate area was safe and secure, we marched west along a short entrance road, quickly reaching a gated area minutes later. Strangely enough, however, the portcullis marking the actual entrance into the city was raised. We were free to just walk into the capital. What, exactly, are we looking for? Kartha wondered, all of us on guard and ready for anything. Vel just said that something strange was going on, Redfern answered, looking about. I imagine we will recognize what's wrong soon enough. Wait. Listen. Eswin shouted, halting the party's progress. While faint, we heard what sounded like a mix of animal cries and laughter, a strange combination we had never heard before. Curious, we approached the open gate, 2 guards standing at opposite ends of the large entrance. The 2 human guards here mostly just smiled and laughed as we neared them, not seeing us as a threat in the least. Indeed, they told us that all are welcome within Nace, and that we were free to do as we wished. Standing there within the entrance to Nace, the logical next step was to pass through the gate and forward into the city itself. As we moved along, the 2 human guards continued to chuckle as if they didn't have a care in the world. Entering the capital city, none of us were prepared for what was going on all around. While Nace was mostly populated with humans, and a few did seem to be strolling about leisurely, the city seemed overrun by shorter, cat-faced humanoids that certainly weren't human. Hundreds of these creatures, perhaps thousands, all seemed to be running about in playful chaos, many of them with mischievous smiles on their faces as if playing one gigantic game. None of the creatures had noticed us and we didn't seem to be in any danger, but we couldn't believe what we were seeing. Utterly dumbfounded, we carefully watched the shenanigans as we searched the local area. Again, it didn't appear that these humanoid creatures meant any harm. Rather, it was as if they were small school children just released for recess and they were having incredible amounts of fun. Indeed, most of the creatures appeared to be smiling as they dashed about, chasing one another, playing with a variety of inanimate things and doing what, well, cats normally do. Just as puzzling, even the human guards here all had strange smiles on their faces, the activity beyond apparently not a problem to the guards in the least. These are feline, I believe, Kartha finally reported, recognizing the humanoid species. They can be vicious if they need to be, but normally they mind their own business and many are even honorable. Studying the creatures more closely, most appeared smaller than an average human with a decidedly cat-like face, feet, and tail but were otherwise humanoid in appearance. I also noticed that there was quite the diversity amongst the individual creatures, some were short and stocky, others were tall and lean, and the coats of their fur were a variety of colors and patterns as well. Most of the creatures were running about on their 2 back legs just like a human, while others were frolicking about on all 4 legs like a cat. Quite astounded by the cat-like creatures, all we could do was continue to stand by and watch them. There didn't seem to be any rhyme nor reason to the chaos before us, the creatures were just having the time of their lives and we couldn't help but smile ourselves at their unbridled, happy spirits. I also noticed that none of the humans here walking about seemed to mind, even though the creatures occasionally knocked them over, tore up some of the local vegetation and otherwise caused minor damage. Vel wasn't kidding about something odd going on here, Redfern remarked, a slight grin on his own face. At least they don't seem dangerous, Ariana added, finding the scene almost adorable. I want to pet one. These aren't normal cats, Ariana, Kartha instructed, knowing better. They're intelligent beings, just like you and me. And this isn't their normal behavior. Perhaps the Lord of Nace knows something, Eswin suggested, pointing toward the city's power tower directly ahead of us in the distance to the west. Shall we? While the scene remained bizarre, there wasn't much more we could do here, and while Nace appeared to be a smaller but more concentrated city than Kathleen, there were plenty of areas here to explore. Indeed, a large wooden sign seemed to encourage visitors to Nace about 50 feet ahead, and soon we were marching directly toward the sign. The road west here took us into the city, intersecting with another larger road that appeared to loop into a complete circle, perhaps a quarter-mile across. A wide variety of buildings, shops, and other areas lined this roundabout, offering plenty of places to relax, re-equip and inquire. Situated directly within the large roundabout was a tall structure, the obvious power tower of the capital city. Home to Hope Air's socialistic government, dozens of feline here dashed and frolicked around as well, but it appeared we could reach the tower without harm. We soon arrived at the large sign, several directional arrows pointing to the north and south. The sign revealed that the merchant, smithy, tavern, and fortune teller could be found to the north, while the hostel, Sislan temple, library, and theater could be accessed to the south. Of course, there were more areas to visit within Nace than just those. We needed to explore the city extensively. Ow! Eswin suddenly cried out, instinctively raising a hand to his head. It appeared that the warrior had just been struck in the head with a large fish head, several younger feline in the near distance laughing at the prank. I sensed that the creatures didn't mean any real harm, but Eswin was definitely not amused. Why, those damn things, let's get them! Eswin cried, unsheathing his blade and turning in their direction. About to dash after them, I instead grabbed Eswin's shoulder, instructing everyone to simply ignore the prank. The juvenile creatures chuckled and then fled, far too fast for us to have caught them anyway. Best we let them go, Kartha advised, patting my shoulders. Let's not cause a scene. These feline don't seem to mean any real harm, Redfern observed, still concerned. But they're completely out of control. We need to find out what's going on, the Lord of Nace should know more. I am sure the Sislan Way would be a better source of information, Sainairs countered, pointing to the southwest. Let's go visit the temple first instead. Actually, a visit to the local tavern may yield more honest and complete answers than the city or church officials, Kartha suggested instead. For all we know, these officials could be the cause of this ruckus. 3 different suggestions from 3 different points of view. I gave the matter a little thought, then introduced a different plan altogether. We can address all the mayhem here soon enough, I responded, pointing northwest. But first let's take care of ourselves, starting with the merchant, smithy, tavern, and hostel. This way. My fellow heroes agreed and we embarked upon the large roundabout, heading northwest toward the central merchant of the city. Stepping into this merchant's shop, we saw all manner of chests, trunks, cabinets, shelves, and so forth containing just about anything mundane that we could want. A tall, older man then appeared from behind a counter, a huge smile on his face. Are you having fun? The merchant asked between bouts of laughter. Buy, sell, whatever. It does not matter to me. Nearly shocked by the merchant's behavior, we nonetheless conducted some initial business, buying some provisions and selling some odds and ends we no longer needed. Our transaction complete, we then watched in near disbelief as the merchant simply dropped the coins we had just given him on the floor, as if he didn't care less about them. Clearly the merchant was acting very strange. The merchant laughed again, then steadied himself for a moment to talk to us again. Are you almost done? I have to go feed the cats. Believing that his comment was utterly hilarious, the merchant again busted out with tremendous laughter, to the point where he was obnoxious. This shopkeeper is an embarrassment, Eswin commented, not humored in the least. There is likely something wrong with him, Kartha suggested, feeling more concerned than annoyed. Maybe we should check him for possible poisoning, quiz him about what's going on here or just try to reason with him. Asking the merchant some questions sounded appropriate, so we spent the next 20 minutes asking the merchant a series of logical questions in the hope of better understanding his bizarre behavior. Unfortunately, all the man could do was laugh and not take us seriously, so we didn't learn anything more from him at all. No closer to understanding what was going on here in Nace, but at least our immediate needs taken care of, we soon left the merchant's store, the strange man watching us leave with a huge, stupid smile on his face. Stepping into this modest establishment, we encountered all sorts of weapons, suits of armor, shields and other objects related to combat and the general defense of an adventurer. Moments later, a muscular human fellow appeared from beyond a stone counter and hailed us, inquiring about our business here. Sporting a large smile, the smith seemed almost overjoyed to see us and made several unfunny jokes. Looking to upgrade our weapons, armor, and shields, we made sure that everyone in the party had at least one magical weapon. Eswin, Ariana, Sainairs and Kartha also purchased better armor and replaced their simple wooden shields with metallic ones. Soon our transactions were complete, but the smith flung the coins we gave him over his shoulder as if they meant nothing. A well-dressed feline then appeared alongside the smith, himself smiling but in more control. Holding a 2-foot section of an old, wooden, broken staff, the feline looked to the smith, held up the staff section and asked, "Fetch?" Amazingly enough, the smith nodded his head with tremendous excitement. The feline threw the broken staff as far as he could and the smith dashed after it, retrieving the item and returning it to the feline. It was a sight I wouldn't have believed if I hadn't seen it myself. The feline rubbed his head against the smithy in a sign of appreciation and then disappeared, the buff young man ready again to buy and sell to us. Having had enough of the fetching smith and quite hungry by this point, we headed west and found one of the more prominent city taverns, preparing to dine for the night before checking into a nearby hotel. Entering the rather large tavern, we found a moderately sized human crowd enjoying their food and beverages. However, the place was overrun with juvenile feline having a wild but equally good time, the creatures apparently not interrupting or annoying the humans here in the slightest. The sight was quite bizarre, but something I was becoming accustomed to here in Nace since our arrival. Before we could sit down and order anything, a small group of feline approached us directly and mumbled something about wanting to play a game. From what we could tell, the game involved pitching stones into the fireplace to see who could cause the largest flames to shoot out. At first not interested in such frivolous activity, especially in something that could potentially burn the entire tavern down, I decided a moment later that perhaps joining the feline may afford some clues as to what was going on within the city. Almost giddy with excitement, the feline explained that each team got 3 chances to throw small rocks into the fire. The team that caused the largest flames to escape from the fireplace was the winner. Recognizing that the game seemed a bit dangerous, I accepted anyway to see where it might go. "Let me try," Ariana shouted, retrieving 3 stones from an outstretched paw of one of the feline. Not surprisingly, Ariana seemed like a natural, as all 3 of her throws generated some massive flames from the fireplace, the last of which actually set a few nearby chairs on fire. My party quickly jumped forward to put the small fires out, leaving Ariana and myself momentarily alone with the feline pyromaniacs. "Clever girl, great arm," one of the humanoids joked, impressed. "Flavit would be proud." "Flavit?" Ariana asked with a smile. Embarrassed, the feline returned the smile, then led his own party away, taking their shenanigans elsewhere within the tavern. Minutes later, my party was seated at a larger table in the far corner of the tavern, as away from the general feline mayhem as possible. A young, attractive half-elf then stepped to our table, the same grin on her face as everyone else and in great spirits. "Aren't things grand?" the pretty young woman stated, almost as if she were in love. "Nace sure has been better off since Feria skipped town." "Feria?" Sainairs asked, recognizing the name. "Supreme Healer Priest Feria, leader of the Sislan Way here in Nace? Do you know where she is?" "Now, let me see," the waitress responded, taking a moment to reflect. "I do seem to remember she was with the Sislans and all. Yes. I think she lost her faith and left." "Yes, that was it." "Lost her faith?" Sainairs countered, incredulous. "She would never do such a thing. Where is she now?" "Gone. She left. Skipped town. Just walked away." The half-elf smiled again, almost instantly forgetting the conversation as if it had no relevance whatsoever. Still smiling as if she were the happiest girl in all Sicelus, the waitress remained ever patient to take our order, reminding us that 1 gold piece would be required to bring us all the food and drink we could consume. Having had our fill an hour later, we began listening attentively for rumors amidst the din of soft conversations within the tavern. One nearby conversation spoke to how things were now somehow better than they were before. Indeed, the pair of humans were quite thankful that the feline were now generally in control of the city, where they have allowed anyone and everyone to do anything they wish, all in the name of fun. Similarly, an hour later we heard about Lord Ristinian, the new head of government here in Hope Air, who recently decreed that the feline were to be left totally alone, free to do anything they wished throughout the city in return for all the terrible things that had been done to them by the humans over the centuries. A few hours later, we heard one more rumor regarding some Sislan fear antidote here in Nace. Although the antidote had been regularly arriving from Pirapa and sent to the Sislan temple, it never seemed to actually arrive at the building. Somehow, all the antidote received the past season or so had gone missing, nobody knew where it went. Our eyes heavy and our bellies still full, we decided to end our evening at the tavern and seek one of the city's better hotels, ready to bed down for the night and continue our quest in the morning. The time nearing midnight, we soon arrived within a large public hotel consisting of dozens of small but comfortable individual chambers, each providing warm beds, spacious tables, locking cabinets, and all the trimmings needed for a relaxing stay. Along with the hostel owner, however, a bunch of feline were here, playing as if they were outside and causing quite a commotion. Interestingly enough, the hostel owner didn't seem to mind. Indeed, he seemed to be actively involved in whatever games they were playing, and initially oblivious to my party. It took a moment, but we finally gained the man's attention, the hostel owner greeting my party with the largest of smiles. "Ah, a fine adventuring party, here to stay the night. We charge just 1 silver piece." As he logged our names into his records, the owner was suddenly struck by some sort of water balloon, smack in the face. The balloon was actually made of animal intestines, causing quite the disgusting mess, but the manager just laughed it off as if nothing was wrong. As we began to laugh with the hostel owner, I turned back around toward the feline. In that instant, many of them stopped for a moment and looked at us, giving the entire party large, cute, kitty cat eyes. It was actually quite adorable and we laughed off the prank even harder, recognizing that the humanoids here didn't mean any real harm. "There are intestines all over your face," Eswin tried to point out, the joke almost lost on him. "Yes," the hostel owner replied, wiping the slimy substance off with a handkerchief and a smile. "And a darn good throw too, I might add." Several of the closer feline began to meow in appreciation, the rest of them joining in moments later. Even the hostel owner gave his own loud meow before turning back to us again, the whole situation bizarre. "Now, about your rooms. I charge just 1 silver piece for the lot of you," the hostel owner offered, the price more than reasonable. "You can stay as long as you wish, but if you leave and come back, I will have to charge another silver piece." The hostel owner then handed us our chamber keys and we soon bed down for the night, one of us always awake and alert. The next morning, we decided to continue our investigation of Nace at the local Sislan temple, Sainairs more than convinced that appropriate answers could be found there. Taking the roundabout south, we soon arrived at a smaller yet still magnificent construction, the temple quiet, serene, and beautiful, another powerful example of how strongly the Sislans felt about themselves and their world-dominating religion. Sainairs grinned as we approached the impressive double doors leading into the building. Quite surprisingly, however, those doors were locked, there appeared to be no way in. "What is this?" Sainairs cried, shocked. The Sislan way never shuts its doors. It was an odd situation. As we stood there dumbfounded, a middle-aged human then happened to pass by and I inquired about the locked temple. "The church?" The woman grinned, surprised that I would ask about it. "They shut their doors just last week. I guess we don't need it anymore." "I thought it was Sislan way policy to be forever available to the people," Kartha inquired, doing her best to remain respectful. "Yes, of course," Sainairs replied, the mere sound of Kartha's voice enough to make him snap back. "I can't explain it either, I've never seen the Sislan way shut its doors, ever." "Then we will need to seek answers elsewhere," Eswin sighed. "Let's try the power tower." I nodded, and we headed west, straight for the tall power tower in the near distance. As we approached the power tower, we quickly found its entrance guarded by perhaps a dozen feline, and the humanoids didn't appear to be laughing, happy or even amused. Bearing polearms that could be deadly if used against us, the feline guards took us quite seriously as we neared. "State your business," one of the feline guards demanded, extremely tense compared to most of the other fun-loving feline we had encountered. Not wanting to confront the feline guards but still needing answers, I elected to take a neutral stance, leaving our weapons secured but not turning to walk away either. Perhaps trained better than we expected, the guards here all remained defiant, their weapons up and ready for anything. The same squad leader then spoke again, addressing me personally. Lord Rustinian is not to be disturbed for any reason. Yet, especially by a ragtag group of vagrants like you. Another feline ridiculed, the situation becoming more intense. Now leave, or incur the full wrath of the feline. Complimenting the feline here for their strong defense of the power tower and obvious loyalty to the Lord of Nace, I utilized every ounce of persuasion and charm I could muster to defuse the situation somewhat, earning a bit of trust and keeping the conversation going. Yes, we know how to guard our Lord, take care of our people and treat others with dignity and respect. The squad leader continued, believing every word. Unlike all those humans who treated us terribly for years and refused us justice when it was our turn to be smart like them. You mean the human government here in Hope Air? Sainairs asked, needing to know more. Unfortunately, the question broke the trust of the feline guards again and they ordered us to leave and never return. While we could have defeated them in combat, I ordered my heroes to stand down, not seeing a need to spill blood with these noble creatures. Backing away some 20 feet and looking westward, Eswin asked the question on everyone's mind. Now what? Eyeing what appeared to be the city's library to the southwest, Kartha suggested that we pay the institution a visit, hoping that we could find some answers there. We soon reached the Nasian Public Library, an impressive structure recently built that seemed to proudly reflect Hope Air culture and lore. As we gained entrance inside the building, however, we discovered that it had been ransacked by the feline. Virtually all the books had been pulled from their shelves, its many maps defaced and its historical treasures vandalized or even destroyed. The scene was actually heartbreaking, as it would likely take several seasons, perhaps even years, to fully restore the library to its original glory. Indeed, after a cursory search, we soon recognized that it would take days, maybe even longer, to do any sort of thorough search within the debris. It's impossible to utilize this library in such a state, Redfern lamented, shaking his head. If we focus our efforts and stick to a single topic, maybe we can learn more over the course of a half-day's search. The party agreed to dedicate the time necessary to research a single topic, choosing the history of the feline here within Nace. Hence, over the next 12 hours or so, we pieced together the history of the feline race, discovering that they were indigenous to Hope Air and quite mysterious. There had been a strong bond between the feline and the humans here occupying Hope Air that went back at least to the Age of Damnation. However, we also discovered that the relationship had started to wear thin recently, with some feline actually threatening to rebel until perhaps a season ago. Given the relative stability of the relationship between the humans and feline over the past 1,000 years, I wondered what might have changed to threaten that relationship. Wrapping up our research at the nearly destroyed city library, several of the party were taken by surprise as a half-dozen or so feline suddenly appeared from the shadows, their weapons drawn and their eyes remarkably angry. Not used to seeing such a dangerous side to these creatures, I wondered what was going on as the presumed leader of the pack stepped forward to address me. We've been told there be spies here in Nace, and that we need to fix the problem. It appeared these creatures had come here for one purpose, and it wasn't good for our health. Attempting to negotiate a quick truce, I was barely able to get a few words out before the feline here rushed into attack. As the battle began, I recognized that two of the feline appeared to be magic users, already preparing spells against my party and posing quite the challenge. Utilizing our new weapons, armor, and shields purchased yesterday, however, we defeated the rogue feline party, the library soon becoming quiet again. Still surprised that these otherwise docile and even fun-loving creatures would viciously attack us like this, we now had the upper hand and I considered for a moment what to do with them. Wanting to question the feline for all they knew, I saw a potential opportunity and asked Sainairs and Kartha to nurse their wounds, in return for a reason why they attacked us in the first place. The creatures refused to answer at first, but as they left, their tails, literally between their legs, one of them mumbled something about their leader Flavit perhaps being a bit wrong about our party. There is that name again, Flavit, Ariana pointed out, recalling the game we played with the feline pyromaniacs in the tavern the night before. Perhaps he's the one we need to find? Everyone in the party nodded in agreement. We needed to find this Flavit feline and ask him some good questions. Sainairs and Kartha healed us all up, then we departed the nearly ruined library, the sky already dark after having spent the entire day inside learning about the feline. Heading back toward the hostel and another night of rest, we soon discovered the Nasian Theatre, tucked away within the southwestern corner of the city. One of the more elegant and respected buildings here, the theatre provided not only daily entertainment but potential information, factual lore intended to inform as well as entertain. Talking it over, my heroes decided that the theatre might actually be a good way to relax and end the evening. So, I paid the 5 gold coin admittance fee and soon we were inside the building. Immediately we saw dozens and dozens of felines scattered about, continuing their playful antics but settled down enough to at least pay attention to the play that was about to start. Reviewing the theater's colorful interior, it occurred to me that where we sat with the feline may be just as important as the performance itself. Let's try climbing up into the rafters, Ariana suggested, leading us toward a wooden ladder, itself leading up toward a simple matrix of wooden beams crisscrossing just below the ceiling of the building. It may impress the feline and lessen their anxiety toward us. I nodded with approval and soon we made our way up into the rafters, carefully negotiating the crisscrossing lattice of strong beams that helped hold the ceiling in place. As we then mingled amongst the dozen or so feline camped out up here, they watched us with both surprise and suspicion. "Are we having fun yet?" Ariana shouted with a large grin, actually enjoying the vantage point. Accepting our apparent willingness to risk danger to enjoy a unique vantage point from above, the feline here welcomed us and even cheered. We had definitely impressed them. The lights went out, the feline settled down and the play began. For the next hour we watched as the feline performers told the story of how their relationship with humanity over the centuries was far more one-sided than most Nasians would think, and how the feline were more slaves than companions over time. While not graceful or eloquent by any stretch, the feline actors still did an admirable job of communicating what life was like for their race, and how, at this point, they deeply resented all that had happened to them. A particularly moving element of the production was the frustration of not being able to communicate with their captors, and I tried to imagine the pain and difficulty of not being able to voice my anger and frustration with those who would enslave me. After all, just because a creature can't speak does not mean it can't feel. The play ended, the actors continuing to focus on the idea that, for centuries, they had been at best mistreated by the humans and, at worst, enslaved, and all they wanted now was some equality, respect, and justice. The feline audience then began to shout, meow and stomp their feet in complete agreement and appreciation of the play, the noise around us almost deafening. More or less understanding the story of the feline and in support of them, I stood at my feet and began cheering as well, Ariana, Kartha and Red Fern following suit. Amidst the thunder of the stomping and the meowing of the feline, I suddenly felt a strange sensation, a sort of waking dream that almost wanted to invade my mind. My instinct at first was to repel the sensation, dismissing it perhaps as an illusion or even magical attack. Yet there was something reassuring to the experience, a voice that wanted to help, and so I listened to hear what the voice might be telling me. "Lam Tora, come see me, the fortune teller to the north. I can help." The feline then started to throw around whatever was available and the situation escalated out of control, objects flying everywhere. Recognizing that the time had come to make a quick exit out of the theater, we luckily escaped the craziness in one piece, finding ourselves back outside several frantic minutes later. "Anyone know where the fortune teller may be?" I asked, her magical words still reverberating in my head. "I think we need to pay her a visit." "I didn't think you dabbled in such nonsense," Kartha responded, surprisingly serious. "I think she tried to reach out to me with magic," I said to Kartha with a smile. "She said she could help and sounded trustworthy." Eswin sneered, the warrior never trusting of anyone, but then nodded, apparently trusting in me. After a quick scouting of the area, Ariana led us due north and we soon arrived at a small but highly decorated wooden building. Gazing into a dark window, we spotted several humanoid shapes moving about within, which seemed a bit odd for a place typically inhabited by a single individual. Checking the door, we found it partially ajar, which also seemed strange. And that's a wrap of episode number 15, Cat Scratch Fever. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues. Look.